Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Happy Wednesday, folks, and thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we got a great show for you. First and foremost, let's talk about political intent. Can your political views be used as intent if you commit an act, a violent act, or something illegal? We're talking about the case of Daniel Penny and the killing of Jordan Neely and how Mr. Penny is a conservative. We're going to be checking in with our sister, Suzette Speaks, to get her take on this from the legal point of view. Also, Black Americans' mortality rate increases. Over these past 22 years, we have lost more Black people than white people in this country. We break down the numbers and the reasons why it's happening. Also, later on, we talk about Gabrielle Union. She talks about scarcity mindset. She talks about splitting the bills 50-50 with her husband, DWade. Is this a case of just her being transparent and trying to relate? Or is this a case of insensitivity, considering that her and her husband brings in millions of dollars a year? Stay with us. That and a whole lot more is coming at you in today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Happy Wednesday, folks, and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Big shout out to the online culture crew. What's up, crew? Good to see y'all, connect with you, and hopefully your day has been going well. All right, folks, let's jump right into the discussions as we want to continue our conversation about the situation that happened in New York City with the killing of Jordan Neely. Now, as we've been having these host of conversations, and Jordan Neely's killer, Mr. Daniel Penny, has decided to what did he do? He turned himself in. He turned himself in, supposedly. They charged him with manslaughter and the whole nine. The question is that did he intend to kill Jordan Neely, or was he just simply trying to do the right thing and trying to put the Black man in a chokehold for 15 minutes. We're going to talk about this. And I told you yesterday, I wanted to have this part of the conversation with my sister, who serves as an attorney and TV host, Suzette Speaks, because we found out that Daniel Penny actually is a conservative by political affiliation, that he adheres to certain conservative views and ideologies. And I wonder if that can be used as a part of the case against him. So let me bring my sister in. Suzette Speaks, checking in as always on Wednesdays. Always a pleasure to have my sister. Suzette, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Faraji, and salute to the culture crew. Thank you. Always a pleasure being here every Wednesday. I can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely. All right, Suzette, let's talk about this because as we've been having these conversations, right, a lot of people have been saying, the reason he got manslaughter, speaking of Daniel Penny, is because of the intention. It wasn't like first-degree murder. He didn't, quote-unquote, intend to kill Mr. Neely. But we do know that it's because of the chokehold that Mr. Neely, brother Jordan, died literally in the arms of Daniel Penny. My question is, as I've been having these conversations, and we're seeing that there were a number of GOP political figures, conservative figures who have stepped up, spoke out in support of Daniel Penny, like Ron DeSantis, and Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, and many other folks, and some other folks in Congress. My question is, does one's political view, weigh in on this? Can that be used in a court of law as being intent that since he was feeding off of that political view, that his intention was to do harm? Can that be used? Can that case be made?
I think there are a few things going on here, Faraji, and I'm going to kind of break it down. I'm going to back up to move forward to your question, first and foremost. So we have this horrific video, first and foremost, that most of us have seen. If you haven't, it is a little bit triggering. So you want to be careful when you go watch it. Again, it's violence against a young man who was on the subway, and Mr. Jordan Neely 30 years old, Michael Jackson impersonator, had been having serious mental health issues since his mom had passed. I believe it was in 2007. So he was on this subway, and people said, other witnesses have made statements that he was acting erratically. So there is this theory that the legal defense, or those lawyers on behalf of Mr. Daniel Penny, are now using to say that there was a threat, an ongoing threat going on this train, and that Mr. Penny was in danger of his life. So he acted. So we see in this video that Mr. Penny, who is a very intriguing figure, he is an ex-Marine, 24 years old, he acted. But the way he acted is what is in question. Was it indeed reasonable? Because again, he's a trained Marine, right?
Right.
Retired and in good disposition with his service, and so he acted by using a chokehold. Now we know that in New York, a chokehold is now banned among law enforcement. But again, Mr. Penny was a civilian, right, acting on his own accord to intervene, according to his lawyers, in order to save people's lives. So what we see in the video is a very, very intense, like, bear hug, body hug that he has, and his hand is in effect snuffing the life out of Jordan Neely. So it is more than 3 minutes long, and prosecutors have rendered a second-degree manslaughter charge. That's what they believe they can prove based on the evidence, right? The video, the eyewitness evidence, what Mr. Neely's testimony, or excuse me, what his early statements have been, what the other people on the train have said. So this is very important when we talk about intent. So what many have called for in the community was a first-degree murder charge, right? That there was a knowing, there was an intention to, in fact, take his life, take Mr. Jordan Neely's life. What the manslaughter charge says is that the DA believes they can't prove that he intended in that moment to take his life, but they can say he acted recklessly. He should have. It was careless of him to move in this way. Again, with the training he has, I think that plays a bigger part, that he knows how to take lives, right? He's trained, an ex-Marine. So what we're seeing is that this has kind of caused a rift. There is a side that says he should have been charged with first degree intentional killing, but instead he's now the secondary manslaughter charge, second degree, of reckless killing. He should have known better, especially those last few moments of the video where you can see he's unconscious, right? Jordan Neely is now unconscious. Is there still a remaining threat? And if you continue to chokehold somebody, what is the reasonable outcome that you would expect, right? So now we'll go to what you have asked about, which is some of his political views. Now we've seen so much money be raised, $2 million. They're not using GoFundMe. They're using a different app, a conservative Christian fundraising site that many have used for the January 6th defendants, etc. And his political views have now kind of come to the fore. Of course, in a national case like this, you're now seeing that he has had, a history where he's espoused more conservative viewpoints, etc., etc. Now, what you will see his attorneys try to argue before the court is that it would be prejudicial to bring in any past writings, any, past tweets and things where he's published on social media, because they're saying in this moment, they would not be a part of what was going through his considerations in that train. Now, you might have prosecutors argue the opposite, saying that this shows a pattern and practice of what his thinking is like towards certain groups, minority groups, Black men in particular, etc. So we'll see after the grand jury sits. They're going to consider all this evidence, the video being one of the biggest parts of it, and say, do we have enough to indict? And so that step must take place. And then obviously we'll get the arguments in terms of what type of evidence is allowed to be presented to show mindset. But again, that's going to be a fierce fight.
So if we're looking at the situation, it may or may not come up.
I think it's a stretch, because then if you had any type, like again, if there was something that he had said while he was basically asphyxiating this man, where it showed that his mindset related to any of those type of philosophies that you're referring to, then we might have a little bit more relevance. But I think his defense team might be successful in saying, Your Honor, this is now prejudicing the jury to think that he is some sort of supremacist, where in that moment, is there any other indication that there was some sort of philosophy at play while this was occurring for those several minutes? So I don't know. It might be too much of a stretch. Again, prosecutors might try to bring it in and argue that it is in terms of mindset, as you're saying, and intent, that it would be relevant. But I think it's a little bit of a stretch myself. But we'll see after there's an indictment hearing coming up on July 17th, whether a grand jury thinks there is enough evidence to take Mr. Penny to trial.
We got a couple of moments, Suzette, but I do want to get this thought coming in from our crew member, Pauline Hurt. Pauline said, well, they are bringing in Jordan Neely's past.
Now,
yes.
So
what, how do you justify bringing in his past, but you don't justify bringing in the past or the ideology of the person that's responsible for it?
Yes, sir. But what we've seen is it has played out in the court of public opinion. They have not brought this up again. There has been no trial yet, and there has not been any formal hearing. This is what is happening in terms of the trial that's going on in the court of public opinion prior to. Of course, his attorneys are trying to taint the jury pool and others who share in defending Mr. Penny and want to paint this type of kind of re-victimizing the victim picture of Jordan Neely as this problem. Now, he has had issues on the subway before. There was a record in which the city had kept, these folks who are non-housed, who are highly, problematic in terms of the danger they pose to themselves and to others. He was on that list. Right. So, of course, while we are getting ready to hear the actual legal arguments, there are lots of things that are being pushed out there. Again, there is no judge yet making a judgment as to what will be allowed in and what will be not allowed in. But again, we are concerned because it might, in fact, taint the jury pool, because we're hearing a lot of these preliminarily in terms of the media's discussion of who these two individuals are.
That's going to be interesting. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to get more of your thoughts around this as we're talking about political ideology possibly used for intent for murder. As we look at the case of Brother Jordan Neely being killed by Daniel Penny, what are your thoughts around this? Post your comments on our YouTube chat that we're streaming live there. And of course, stay tuned because we're going to continue the conversation on the other side, along with talking about the rate of mortality, the mortality rate of Black people in this country, folks. And when you see these numbers, you will be blown away just as much as we were. So stay with us. More discussion here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about the case of Brother Jordan Neely and the case around his murderer, Daniel Penny. And I'm asking the question, can your political views be used as intent for murder? As we have found out that Daniel Penny, even though he is a Marine, even though he was just happened to sit on the subway, he was also a man who believed in conservative views and conservative ideologies. And I'm just throwing it out there, folks, that if we see this type of situation happening, and this may be putting the ideas of conservatism on the stand, that can any idea, but in this case, conservatism, can they lead to violence? Can they lead to some level of illegal activity? So we've been checking in with our sister Suzette Speaks, who is an attorney, TV host, getting her take on this. And as Suzette's been saying, it would be a stretch to try to prove that part of the case, that it would be better for the prosecutor to stay with the manslaughter charge, what they have decided to do. Because if you start to go into that part of the case, which I can understand it, Suzette, I mean, it's a slippery slope, right? Considering where the political polarization that we are in this country, that if you start to brand a certain ideology as violent, as racist, as all of that stuff, then you really are dealing with you're going to be dealing with a larger issue. But it's something that I think that we should look into.
Clarify what you're saying when you're finished. Excuse me.
Yeah, no problem. No, it's just something that I've been thinking about, especially in light of what we saw with the January 6th situation. That a lot of those people, those folks who ran up on the Capitol, adhere to a conservative view of what America should be. They listened to Donald Trump, they got ramped up, fired up, and boom, acts of violence started to happen. And so I don't know if that can serve as a precedent or not, or if it's just more of, they just happen to be conservatives running in and attacking the Capitol. But I know it's a slippery slope. Suzette.
I would add, and again, from my point of view, I think, again, the nature of the crime that you have committed would determine the type of evidence that should be allowed to align with whether or not that belief system played into your acts. So when we were talking about January 6th, that's a different cup of tea, because they were talking about sedition, right, against your government. So trying to overthrow your government, the ideology that you uphold definitely ties in, right? Those are intertwined to the crime that is now being charged. So in that case, I know that those things are relevant, because that type of crime requires, you to prove that this person had a certain ideology walking up those steps, right? And so the background behind that person's beliefs and what they posted would therefore be relevant. What I'm saying is, in this case, this prosecutor, Mr. Alvin Bragg, the DA in Manhattan, doesn't think he has enough evidence right then and there in that moment on that video to prove first-degree murder. You have to show what was going on in that person's mind at the time. So if it's by body language, if it's by something he said, if it's something he posted that morning, that would give you some idea of what his mental state was in that 3 minutes, then it would be relevant. So what I'm saying, it could be relevant. They will argue it. I'm not saying that it might not have a chance of being admissible. I'm just saying whatever we write in our past is not necessarily relevant to the crime at hand. So the argument can be made. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be, or that it would be silly to make it. All I'm saying is, with this particular crime, there is no evidence to me that it is necessarily a hate crime or something that shows that type of malintent where any type of ideology might come in. But I have not reviewed Mr. Penny's postings or what they've said, et cetera, et cetera. But in a normal circumstance, it might be too far of a stretch to say something that he wrote. I mean, relatively recently might have or might not have impacted this. I think it might be a stretch depending on what it is he wrote. But I'm just saying at this moment, to bring it back to the charge that is at hand, there is no evidence that I have seen so far in the videos that I have watched that show mindset. What was he thinking when he grabbed him up? It might be a stretch to say, well, he's written this about the, in a conservative blog. Therefore, that's what he was thinking when he was laying down on that floor. It's too far. It's too far of a reach. So let me argue. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but I'm just saying relevant to this crime. I'm not sure how admissible it will be, if at all.
Willie, my guy, Willie Fraser, you checked in. You said, I don't separate a person's political views from themselves. Just because you may look fairly on me doesn't mean you look at my family, friends, or community in the same way. That's a good point. I think that's a valid point.
There's a difference between that standard of like everyday interaction and then to prove first-degree murder. I think there's two different kind of rubrics or standards, but I understand what Willie is saying when it comes to him personally. What people write matters to him. What people have said, in blogs and on their social media matters to him because it shows what they may have been thinking. So we'll see if a judge, if he's indicted, will allow that type of past writings or recordings to be admissible. But I'm saying to this charge, if they thought they could prove murder one, that's a thing. The attorney for Mr. Jordan Neely's family has said, he expected it to be a murder one. But again, the DA might not see evidence to convict. They're going to charge with as high as what they believe they can convince a jury occurred, right? We might be in disagreement. And so is the family attorney for Jordan Neely. He wanted a murder one indictment, but he didn't get it. So 5 years to 15 years is the window we're looking at it. And again, you can disagree. And again, there are other people that are looking at what they see on that tape and saying there was an intent. It's very difficult to prove mindset. It's very difficult to prove when there's no speaking or things like that going on.
And Suzette, I'm so happy that you were having this part of the conversation so that way we can understand the nuances of all of this, like legal jargon, and more importantly, understanding the nuances of how the legal system look at a person, What about the part of, and I haven't seen this, so if there's some video out there, folks, y'all let me know, crew. But there has been some question about what happened before Daniel Penny wrapped his arm around Jordan Neely's neck. That some folks say that is still kind of unknown. First and foremost, Suzette, have you heard or seen any video of what happened the moments prior to that altercation?
I personally have not, but I'm sure DA Alvin Bragg took witness statements. There were two other individuals, let's not forget, that were actually holding him down too. Right. What precipitated, that's what's so tough about video, because we don't have the context, the full context of what took place before. Whenever the person starts recording is where we, pick up. And there was several, interactions possibly right before. So the level of the threat, I think, is what is undetermined. How do you say this person was threatening your life? And do other people corroborate that, the other witnesses? Because, again, so many people were sitting on that train just looking at what was going on. No one intervened to stop it. So I was like, do these people therefore believe that there was like an imminent threat that this person was going to harm them or do something?
And delay the time, Suzette.
Exactly. And there was also
the video that has been broadcasted to the public is not 15 minutes.
Right. There's a lot of missing pieces that they have that we don't have. So we have to withhold judgment.
So you mean to tell me whoever was taking a video, and I don't know, maybe NYPD confiscated the video and just decided to show that last part or whatever the case may be. But whoever took the gentleman that took the video, I think he's like a local reporter or something. When he took that video, you mean to tell me you didn't, like, you sat there for 15 minutes, or did you You know what I'm saying? Like
some of the entrances to the subways have videos. Some of the, I want to see it all. Like right now, you're just seeing this snapshot, this really horrific, snuffing out the life of a human being in your arms. It is so personal. Again, there's parts of that I'm like, what am I looking at here? When did the threat end? And did he anticipate really taking his life? That's really what the nuance of the case lies. Do you think that he knew by what he was doing that he was going to take his life? Or do you think he was reckless in that he should have known that if you hold a man by a chokehold for 3 minutes or longer and that he has stopped moving and in your arms you could feel that he has stopped breathing, that you should have stopped or let go or rendered aid at some point? They're saying, the DA says, I think I can prove recklessness. I don't know that I can approve a premeditation of intent. I guess that's the rub. That's the difficult part to prove.
I did read also that, after he was holding Brother Jordan in his arms for that long and his body went limp, he still maintained the hold.
That's the recklessness.
So that's why I'm going back to intent. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to stabilize a threat? Or are you just trying to kill a black man?
That's
you
why.
See what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't be. Come on. You are trained range.
Yeah.
All right, look. Let me get Real Brooklyn in. I gotta take another pause. Real Brooklyn, my guy. You said Faraji, I believe having certain political views that is trending on violent tendencies should be figured in the whys and who. It's always a subject matter after the fact. Again, I'm with you. I just think that in the court of law, as Suzette explained so well, it will be hard to determine mindset. It goes back to that old Tom Cruise movie where they did pre-crimes. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, Minority Report.
Yes. Minority Report. You gotta like, they stopped the crime before it actually happened because they can look essentially into people's thinking. And I mean, if we're getting into that place, then we probably will. But that's what it kind of like. You got to get that deep. And to Suzette, to your point, that's it's hard to, try to figure out the mindset of a person, especially in a situation like this. If people feel all types of ways and say that he's a threat and all of this stuff, it's very, very hard. We're going to have to see how this thing plays out. Look, got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's just share with you just some of the latest numbers as we talk about a black man dying in the arms of a white man. Let me share with you what black people, what we look like dying in this country as we talk about the latest numbers around the black mortality rate and how we really have a problem of preserving black life in this country. Folks, you don't want to miss this discussion, so stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now
We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We just talking a little bit about Black mortality rate, folks, because as we talk about the killing of Jordan Neely, we got to look at what are some of the other factors that are leading to Black folks having less life in this country. And according to a new set of studies, it's showing folks that guess what? We are losing in terms of years of living in this country because of a number of factors. Here's where we are with the Black Americans' mortality rate as it increases. According to the latest study, we have experienced a 1.63 million, I want to say that again, 1.63 million excess deaths compared with white Americans over the past 22 years. Wow. Now, according to KFF Health News, a study published Tuesday in the medical journal JAMA found that Black people's higher mortality rate from 1999 to 2020 resulted in a cumulative loss of more than 80 million years of life compared to the white population. The study's authors characterize it as a call to action to enhance the health of Black Americans whose higher rates of heart disease, cancer, and infant mortality contribute to their disproportionately early deaths. Now, let me share with you something else on this piece, y'all. Y'all ready for this one? Take a look at this. From 1999 to 2011, the country made headway in bridging the gap between white and Black death rates. But that development stagnated from 2011 to 2019. 2 decades of advancement were undone in 2020 by the large number of deaths brought on by COVID-19, which was particularly hard on Black Americans. Now, according to Clyde Yancey, a study author and the chief of cardiology at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine, said the country's long history of discrimination contributes to Black people's high mortality rate more than genetics. I want y'all to think about that for a minute. That the reason that we're dying at a faster rate than any other group, than white people in this country, is because we are experiencing a high level of discrimination, racism, all other type of isms. And at the same time, we are still, even though we're making some gains in some ways, we are losing years under this system. Let me bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into the conversation. First and foremost, Suzette, are you surprised by these numbers in this latest study?
It is shocking in a way because I know that we have high morbidities because of underlying diseases, because of lack of access to healthcare, because of food deserts, because of a number of reasons. I know that overall, just anecdotally, that there are Black people who are suffering tremendously in ways that I just don't hear from our white counterparts, or at least anecdotally those that are in my circle. So I know that we oftentimes face an uphill battle when it comes to the medical establishment here in our country. But to see this over the last 20 years, I'm talking about people, and this is so personal to me, Faraji, because I know a couple of colleagues of mine who have recently passed that just was in their 30s or early 40s. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, God, these people did not have to die. And I think we can talk about there are so many contributing factors, as you've just described, when it comes to how the medical establishment perceives us. right? What is normal for us may not be normal for what is so-called the majority and the mainstream. And until we can get some more culturally sensitive training when it comes to why sometimes not only we respond differently, but oftentimes our bodies might respond differently to different approaches, how there is, again, that kind of cultural overlay that should be looked at in terms of our history with the medical establishment and why we might not have a general practitioner. I know there's a lot of Black folks walking around here who don't have a one main doctor. We go on an emergency basis. We go to the ER. We might go to the urgent care, but you don't have one person connecting the dots and putting all the pieces together to let us know what systemically really is wrong. We treat in symptoms. We treat at home. We trying to do herbal. We don't get the time off. There's so many things that are contributing to this, but it's still quite shocking that 1.6 million more of us should be here since 1999 till 2020. And I think there is high time that our medical powers that be are looking deeply into this so that we can start to find solutions.
I mean, it's high time. And guess what? It's only right.
Yeah.
It's only right. But see, again, this goes back to the bigger conversation about the impact of oppression, the impact of racism and discrimination, the impact of all of these things that we are forced to struggle with each and every day. The crazy part about this, and I don't know, crew, if y'all, I want y'all to know, let me know if you feel it. Like, America can do something. America can do something. The healthcare system leaders can do something. Political leaders can do something. We can do something. I mean, look, I know that the resources run thin in this country, but America can do something much more than she's already doing. Much more, much more. It's just the fact that this country doesn't want to do the right thing when it comes to its relationship to Black people. So they say, oh, the country leaders is like, oh, well, they're just going to have to take that hit. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not going to spend no extra money on healthcare needs. You know, one of the big things that was brought up in this report was the fact that, let me just pull this up here very quickly, that non-Hispanic white Americans in 2021 could anticipate a life expectancy of birth of 76 years compared with a 71-year life expectancy for non-Hispanic Black Americans. Non-Hispanic Black infants are 2.5 times as likely to pass away before their first birthday than non-Hispanic white infants. Regarding the likelihood of dying from a pregnancy-related problem, non-Hispanic Black women are more than 3 times more probable than non-Hispanic white mothers. And you mean to tell me with all this technology, with all this intelligence, with all this advancements in science and in medicine, you can't save anybody, or you just decide that you don't want to save somebody? It's crazy. 80 million years that we are losing. 1.6 million lives have been lost. And at this rate, because we're experiencing racial discrimination, social injustice, and all of these other things, it's coming faster and faster. And to your point you made earlier, younger people are getting affected. 30s and 40s. I'm happy to celebrate my birthday because I'm looking around me and I'm hearing about 30 and 40-year-olds dropping.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, and it's because we have been living under this system for so long, it's wearing down on us. We can meditate, we can do yoga, we can pray it out, but damn, something's got to change.
Absolutely. When we look at our, I think COVID-19 kind of threw the lid open on how much sicker Black people are to begin with. Because remember how many more of us were lost during the pandemic because of comorbidities. That's high blood pressure, that's asthma, that is all kinds of, sugar, diabetes, all this was going on in our bodies. And because this pandemic came upon us, we were the larger amount, the lion's share of those who lost their lives. So these problems existed before then, but they were exacerbated by that. But I'm glad that this study was actually concluded right at the beginning of the pandemic. So we could see that we do have higher rates of heart disease, of cancers, and all of those type of very, very treatable, oftentimes if caught early, type of comorbidities. So we have to also take a stand in our community. I agree with you that the government, if this was another subset of our great American, body politic, right? If it had to do with women who were white, who were above a certain age or below a certain age, it would be looked into. But guess what? Black Americans deserve to live too, and live long and healthy lives too. So as you said, I think it's something that we have to hold our elected leaders, accountable for, but we ourselves, I'm talking about from the church house to, locally, which I say civic groups, we have to really look into it deeper for one another's health, because they're not doing anything about it and we're still suffering. So we have to really get more people involved, from getting more of us into med schools in the first place, but also doing community-based, grassroots outreach and education. I think that's what it's going to take, even for us to educate one another and push one another to go to a doctor. You feel pain, don't ignore it. Go to a doctor. And then again, the cost and the access, that it's like a whole set of circumstances that could prevent us from getting to that point. But we got to become advocates for one another as well.
Hey, look, and here's the thing. How does one get heart disease? How does one get cancer? I have family members.
Stress, lots of stress and all that.
Stress of being Black.
Yeah.
Poor diet, right? So we're living in food deserts. I mean, we can go back and look at each one of those medical conditions and then take a step back. Because see, at this point, we're just managing pain, not eliminating the problem. Yeah. That's the condition that we find Black America in. We're just managing pain. We're going from one thing to the next thing, looking for another pill, another antidotes, another liquids, another something to just manage the pain instead of eliminating the problem. The problem isn't cancer. That's not the cause. That's the effect. Right. The real cause is we wake up every day. We're inundated. As soon as we walk outside of our doors of our homes, we're inundated with our Blackness being a problem. You know what I'm saying?
That's how we're treated when we get to the doctor, when we say we're in pain, when we say we have a problem, I just had a case with someone with sickle cell being accused of being, drug seeking and all this other stuff, and how I'm just like the lack of sensitivity or understanding within the medical establishment, oftentimes with how we do stuff and why we do stuff and how to go about. I mean, I remember being told from I was a little girl, you're obese. And I know they like to not say you thick and you big bone. And again, that's not an excuse for walking and to exercise and to lower your salt and your sugar and your fat intake. But I just remember always feeling like, what is wrong with me? Like I always weighed, 20 pounds more than the, white girl who was, a fellow student and my counterpart in elementary and middle, et cetera, because the scales haven't changed. Now, again, that does not give us any excuse to go beyond what is the, hopefully recommended amounts of, you could fill in the blank, sugar, fats, and et cetera. But again, to be taught to know better is to do better. So oftentimes I think there's also this knowledge gap, and I don't think the medical establishment has been tackling that knowledge gap amongst themselves or amongst patients as well. So I think, again, we have to start within our communities to be our best advocates, health fairs and things like this, free screenings, getting those mammograms, ladies. I know a lot of people that are above the age who have never got a mammogram. They scared, they heard it hurts or whatever. And I'm like, if you can catch those things early, it's treatable. But what happens is we most often find when we have deep pain, now we're going to look at it. Now you in stage 3 and 4. So again, I know it's access. I know it's also having our own, which I say knowledge and being able to understand what our bodies are doing and why. And again, the medical establishment needs to kind of look within itself also as to when we cross into those hospital doors, how we are receiving and what, disparities among the treatment we are receiving that they are is somewhat responsible for, and they have to correct that, right? We have to self-correct, but we also have to hold the system accountable as well.
And we have to change the culture. Just because a woman is thick doesn't necessarily mean that she's healthy. Yeah. That we glorify certain, certain ways of life.
That she's unhealthy. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can run faster than them. I can do
it. We love that. And I remember hearing that stuff like, this is for boys and girls. You real skinny. You look like you don't eat enough.
Yeah.
And and it kind of gets passed on from generation to generation. But now it's like, if you weigh a certain thing, it's like you're just considered to be desirable. If you don't weigh a certain thing, you're not desirable. But we're looking at it from the vantage point of physical beauty, of hypersexuality, versus looking at it from the vantage point of health and wellness.
Absolutely. There has been some kind of a movement towards that and in some subsets of the Black culture, and Black fitness is like a thing now. And again, people are into it. People want the body, get their bodies right.
But even in that, Suzette, even in that, you live in Florida, right? Sunny state. Guys and girls always want to show their bodies. I live in LA, sunny state. We all want to show our bodies. Yeah. But is it really about health and wellness? Because you don't have to have a ripped up abs, powerful chest and all of that is it just we're talking about health and wellness.
Yes, absolutely. The being in the outdoors, people want to compare this comparison culture of what a fit body looks like or what we ourselves need to look like is very dangerous, because everybody, sometimes you eating weight gainers, sometimes you eating all this fat and stuff to try to keep up, the type of look that you want. But overall, I think we have to start with go to the doctor and get your blood drawn and get tested and find out your numbers. A lot of us are low iron. A lot of us have, all kinds of deficiencies that if we catch early, we can treat them. But oftentimes it's not until it's really bad. Oftentimes not till it's almost about to take us out that we now are like, okay, I better go to the hospital. We have to be preventative. Even with the one colleague I just lost, she had heart failure. I know, I was like, your body has to be telling you something. Even if you see excessive weight gain, rapid weight gain, if you see, you sweat a lot, you sweat at night, you sweat going upstairs and things like that, your heart is over, time working and trying to pump, but it's not pumping. If you feel any type of chest pain, little, medium, or whatever, Faraji, during COVID, I felt, give me an EKG, roll up to the urgent care. Again, if you can afford it, if you have the healthcare access, if it's close to you where you live, etc., if you can get the time off of work because you need them hours and you got to pay your bills. But can you get the time off to even go? Like, there's a lot in between that. But as much as you are able to, you yourselves and we ourselves must encourage one another to go and get on top of our numbers, get on top of what is going on, listening to our bodies and seeking intervention early. Again, that's not a cure-all. I'm not trying to push aside all other things that we've already mentioned, but what you can do for yourself, for your life, for your kids, for your family that need you. I have a homegirl who's 2 boys, lovely boys and a husband, now going to be putting her, in the ground in 2 weeks. Right. So again, excess weight is not cool. We know people have different body types. It's not a one size fits all. But if you need to go check out what is going on in my body, and if you are able to do that, it's super important, right? Because we want people to live long lives.
Absolutely. We do not want to become a statistic at all. Folks, we got to take care of ourselves. Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's shift gears. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about marriage. Let's talk about superstar actress Gabrielle Union and how she's in a bit of hot water and some controversy as she's just shared, and some people say too much information, about how she and her husband, DWade, manage their household, the finances, and her take on scarcity mindset. Stay with me. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
No. Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to switch gears and have my sister Suzette Speaks get her take on this situation. As we saw, you may not have heard, the Gabrielle Union gave an interview for a podcast called the Black Millionaires Podcast. And in the course of that discussion, talking about money, talking about family, she made a couple of statements that has gotten to her in a little bit of a controversy. Let me share with you what she said on this podcast, folks. Take a look here. She said, in this household, talking about her home with superstar NBA Hall of Famer DWade, she said, in this household, we split everything 50-50. But in the other households that each of us have to support, there's always this like gorilla on your back that's like, you better work, B. You better work, or you're going to sleep. Oh, you're going to sleep in? You know somebody might not eat. She added, it's hard. It's hard to let that go. So I'm working on that, talking about scarcity mindset. She said, I struggle with that scarcity mindset still. She said, I think I just have more responsibilities for my money. I get nervous like, oh God, that movie didn't open. You know, what does that mean? Am I going to have enough to hold everybody up? Rich people problems. Is this rich people problems, Suzette? Because this conversation has actually opened up a lot of discussions about how people manage the finances of their household. I saw one post today where a sister who I know works in the media, she made the point of saying, look, my net worth is 6 times more than my partner. But what Gabrielle Union shared is too much information. She said, considering that I make more money than my partner, I'm not going to split the bills down 50-50. That wouldn't be fair. So this conversation has opened up everything from finances to who holds the bills. Now, Gabrielle Union is worth a lot of money. Even, she's still a working actress. She has investments. I think they have a couple of businesses together as well. She's still getting money. And DWade is still worth millions of dollars. But the other part about this is the idea that she said that she has the scarcity mindset, which is that will she ever have enough? And some people are saying that this sounds like insensitivity, because people are trying to figure out if they're going to make it through the week, and you're worried about if you're going to have enough to support all the people that you need to support. So is this a case of her being insensitive, or is this a case of her just kind of speaking her truth and being transparent? What's your take on that?
This is an interesting one. Shout out to Gabby Union for always oversharing and keeping, the internet ablaze. Social media had a lot to say about the finances, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what you just asked when it comes to, is this a rich person's problem? Because I find actually when it comes to professionals and that are not multimillionaires or millionaires yet, we have a problem, I would call it, in the Black community, where there's a lot of pressure put on anyone who has been deemed to have made it to help everybody else in a family. That's not just rich people. That's oftentimes a person who would maybe consider themselves middle income, or other people might consider them, upper middle class. But they oftentimes, before we're even grounded ourselves and got ourselves to a place, I ain't talking about myself, Raji, but I'm talking about people I know who are similarly situated, a lot of demands are placed on our money. And we are much more communal minded, for good or for bad, some would argue, because we're not able to fully get ourselves financially situated before we are asked to help someone else in the family. That goes for, I think, just your basic college grad, to people who have made, a good, decent amount of money from their careers. If they're, like I said, a professional and maybe have a license of some sort. Oftentimes, Black people don't have the type of individual wealth they should, because their money is always going back out the door to help somebody else, help the little cousin in college, help grandma them, help your parents. So oftentimes when we are trying to wealth build, I don't think it's just unique to her. She just happens to have a lot more money. So a lot more people are now looking at her and saying, well, you made it, sis. Grandma them need help. Cousin them, they didn't go to school. They don't have this. They don't have that. You need to help them. So I actually felt empathy for her, in a sense, that you have all these people. You made it, right? But you have all these people now dependent upon you to make sure that they eat and sleep. I kind of want to ask her a little bit more about that. And should those people be getting a job or helping themselves in more ways than one, or helping you help them in more ways than one? Okay, that aside. So I think there is a lot of that going on at different scales within the Black community. And I think it's hindering, especially the one who has, quote unquote, made it in the family, from truly making it, because you're already forced to give back before you've truly established like financial independence in a way. So financial freedom, I should call it. I just want to clarify something from the last segment too. I'm not trying to say people who are fat have a problem. I also struggle with obesity. I wanted to just say that obesity is one of the biggest indicators of something being wrong, right? Of some other, some type of other issue going on. So I salute to everybody trying to lose weight. I'm one of them. Okay. I just want to make sure I say that out loud. It's not a critique. It's hopefully to open our eyes in love. All right. So back to Gabby Union. So the second part of Gabby Union is that she's talking about how her and her man divide the money. Now, I believe people were appalled by this, Faraji, because DWade is a multimillionaire as well, right? I didn't actually get a chance to Google who's worth more. If anybody in the culture crew could tell us real quick who's actually worth more, him or her. But people, I think, were a little shocked, because they were like, wait a minute, if you can't depend on your man, who is a multimillionaire, to pay some, or not most, or if not all of the bills, who can you depend on? So I do think it was a little bit jarring for that reason. But you have people on both sides, right? There are people that are saying it's good that it's equal. Women want, all of this equality. Why not allow her, if she wants to pay half the bills? Others are saying it ain't right. It should be something maybe that they kept private. She didn't have to come out here and say this. But yeah, they have it that way and it works for them, I'm curious as to whether they have a joint account or they pay out of their own accounts and you take that bill, I take that bill, etc. But people don't have as much money as them also to have this challenge with establishing how in a relationship you're going to do finances, in a marriage, how you're going to do finances. Others say, it should just be one big pot. And others,
that's the mindset.
I mean, y'all can speak on that. I ain't got nobody, so go ahead.
No. I'm just saying there's a couple of things. You have that household pot, right, for the bills. Then each one of y'all might have individual checking, individual savings, an individual, IRA or whatever other accounts that you have. But you do have one pot. You know what I mean? That's one form of one system. But in this case, Gabrielle Union is worth $40 million. DWade is worth $170 million.
See, that's what I figured. Oh, okay. And she going right down the middle. She got a bag too. Now she got a bag too.
No, she got a bag. But see, here's what I'm saying. Now, this goes back to a number of things because first, I hate pocket watching people. I just hate it. But the reason that people pocket watch is because we live in a system of capitalism, right? We love pocket watching people. I know people be like, man, why are we always watching somebody's pocket? Because the moment you get put on with some money, guess what? You're going to let the whole world know. I'm making millions of dollars, right? That's why the people that win the lottery, they always get the whole sum, which I never understood. That's another different thing. I never understood. I'll get that thing in 20 years, Suzette. Feel me? Break it down over 20 years. But the fact is, people, I think, are more surprised that y'all go 50-50 when your man makes 3 to 4 times as more
that part
than you.
Yeah, that's part, yeah.
Well, that's his net worth. See, that's the difference. Understanding money. Your net worth is one thing. That could include assets. That could be art. That could be homes. That could be land. That could be businesses. That's what that is. Now, actual money in the bank that's accessible, that's a different story. But personally, if I'm bringing in 4 times more than my lady, I'm paying for stuff.
Well,
that's just me though. I'm old school in that. Like,
let the church say,
if I got the resources, I'm paying for it.
And I've
not
seen
to
that
say you can't pay for other stuff, but you might pay for the vacation, pay for the children's stuff. But other than that, I'm paying for the house, the car. Now, if you got all this other stuff going on, y'all paying for grandma and them and cousin, all them. That's one thing. But 50,
a lot of people do believe in that proportionality.
50? Are we roommates? Are we roommates? Or are we husband and wife? What are we doing? What do we do?
Some people say you give according to the proportion of how much more or whatever your salaries are comparatively. So if your husband makes more, that his amount that, of the scale of, whatever your household expenses are would be proportionate to what his, the difference between your salary and his salary. Other people, they, wife pays like almost incidental bills where husband takes care of mortgage as if he is the breadwinner. Like as you said, there's women who got them, they bag up too, and maybe they're the breadwinner. So you have a different kind of arrangement. I say people must do what works for them. Again, she's never been bashful about sharing what they got going on, but I do think because he is worth so much more, people were a little shocked. I think that's why, the dust up of like, what, you pay half?
Look, let me, all right, look, I gotta take a quick break. When we come back, can you imagine if Beyonce came out and be like, yeah, I paid 50-50. Your man got $2.5 billion in the
Exactly.
He paying, you paying for what?
It's very interesting. It's very
You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it.
Work for millionaires is different.
There's a part of me. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Suzette.
Go ahead. We're both excited.
No, I'm just saying very quickly. That's interesting because I don't know, and this was brought up in the conversation on social media, if this is about control, that Gabrielle Union wants to have some level of control around the situation. Because if it's about control, then Gabby, you might be putting yourself in a situation, a trick bag, because if you want to go 50-50 with your husband and then you want to support other parts of other members of your family, you might be putting yourself in a situation. Then you're talking about scarcity mindset. That's the conversation I want to have on the other side.
Okay.
Because now if you are worried, here's a woman that's worth $40 million and you talking about, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it through.
More money, more problems. That's what they say.
You don't know if you're willing to pull it through, if you can make ends meet and you bring it. Folks, we got to take a break.
Yeah.
We got to take a break. Stay with us, man. We're going to more of the conversation. And, of course, I want to hear from you, crew. Share your take on this situation with Gabrielle Union, 50-50 split, scarcity mindset, and more. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about this situation with Gabrielle Union, actress, superstar Gabrielle Union, who's talking about scarcity mindset, the 50-50 split with her finances between her and her husband, DWade, and how they move with their money. Checking in with my sister, Suzette Speaks. So, Suzette, there are a number of people who are like trying to figure this thing out. First, you mentioned it. So, Sister Gabrielle, always sharing something about her personal life, man.
Overshare.
She's an overshare. She's an oversharer.
For real.
This is time is money, right? Exactly. So my thinking is that it really, I don't mind you paying 50-50. If that's how you want to run your household, I have no say in that. That's one thing. But it does, the piece that gets me the most is that this scarcity mindset she talked about. She's been in the spotlight. Can we say 30 years?
A long time, yeah. Long time. Almost there, yeah.
So when she talks about that, she still had this in the back of her head. And this is the hell of a thing, man. Poverty is a hell of a thing, man. Poverty is a real situation, especially for Black folks, right? Mm-hmm. Because we always, and I was just listening to a Rick Ross song, and he was like, you know, I can have I can have a tub full of pool and I still can't relax. This is so real. The scarcity mindset is so real. Now, I'm not going to jump down her throat about having a scarcity mindset, because I think that at the end of the day, she knows that it can all fall apart. It's a house of cards. If your movie doesn't do well, if your products aren't moving, if your businesses are not being supported, right, it can fall very quickly, because all of that is built on whether people like you or not. Can you imagine that, folks? Yeah. Your job is already built on whether somebody like you or not. So whatever you say, they might not like you. So they might not come to your movie. They might not support you in your business. Suzette, you're a lawyer. If lawyers were paid by whether people like them or not, y'all probably wouldn't get paid.
A lot of people wouldn't get paid. A lot of folks. It would be a whole different ball game. It would be a nicer profession.
That's the volatility of the business. Right. Yes. That's the volatility of the business. It's like, we like you, therefore we come out to the movies, we support your projects, support your endeavors, all of that stuff. But this scarcity mindset, what's your take on this? Because this is very, very interesting. Especially, like I said, I hear it more from Black entertainers, Black artists, you know, Black sports figures. But what's your take on this?
I think it can be very, relatable for some of us. I think you don't have to be a Black superstar to have this impact you. I think oftentimes I'll see it again on a smaller scale, just everyday individuals, Jane and Joe's out here that, we're afraid to take risks. We're afraid to, bet on ourselves. We're almost afraid to, try new things because what if we lose? What if that job doesn't work out? What if we're overqualified? And what if we are underqualified? And so we don't ever apply. So we have our counterparts who are, and it's not just white folks, I just mean in general, people without this mindset who can look at a job application or look at a job advertisement and say, I may not have all of the qualifications, but I have this, and that. Let me go for it, right? There are so many parts of this that can rub off and impact different areas of your life that we really have to acknowledge and try to gain control over it. Because if not, we end up losing in the long term. I think, again, for her, it's a little bit different. Again, she has a lot more writing, a lot more people depending on her, and a lot more writing on her everyday decisions and whether her movies do well, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think, other people not in that category of entertainer or celebrity can relate to this. So I think it's a very human part of our experiences if we didn't grow up with like a lot that many people will be able to relate to. But yeah, I think you're gonna have to get like therapy and get support in that way if that's something that plagues you, where you oftentimes feel as if you're gonna lose it all, or you're never gonna have enough, or you're not even worthy of it. That's another part of it. So yeah, it can impact everybody, I think.
And I'm glad that you brought that point up, because it reminds me of the condition of what they call it, survivor's remorse, survivor's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
When you're able to get out of a tragic situation and you live, or you were able to survive and people around you weren't able to get through those same circumstances. And that's what it kind of reminds me of when she talks about the scarcity mindset. Like you said, I don't think I'm worthy to be in this position, even though she's been in the position for 25, 30, 35 years. You know what I mean? She's been doing things for this long period of time. She still suffers from that and struggles with that. And I think that speaks volumes. I mean, I appreciate the transparency, but there's a little insensitivity in the sense that people really there are 4-person families that are getting by on $50,000 and $60,000 a year. That's nothing.
If that, yep.
That's nothing.
Yep.
And there's this view, Suzette, where people often think that poor people or low-income folks are lazy. Shit, low-income folks are the hardest working people in this country.
I think they work harder.
They work harder than the rich.
Yes.
So
the higher up you go, the less work you be doing.
Broad generalization, like, hey, you're poor because you didn't pull up your bootstrap. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Not true. Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. So if folks like that are able to make ends meet, make things happen for their family each and every day, I have heard stories where janitors have sent their children to Ivy League schools because they know how to manage money.
Yeah.
They sacrifice their lives to send their children and allowing their children to go into, and I remember hearing this from my sister Deborah Owens, who has the show here on the platform. I remember I was at an event she had in Baltimore, and she told me about a janitor. He worked 30 years, but he put something aside each time. He was so disciplined that he was able to send his children to Ivy League schools because of his one salary and his discipline and his handling of money. So it's like things can happen. We can do a lot with very little, but that's why I just say it kind of reeks of like entitlement a little bit. It's like, okay. Come on, Gabrielle. If people have $40 million, hell,
Roger's like, don't talk to me about no, you ain't got it. What if, ma'am, you sitting on a boatload of money. Come on.
You're sitting on a boatload, and your husband is sitting on 3 boatloads.
Yes. 3 times that.
3 boatloads. What is he? I mean, and here's the thing then. If this is the problem, why don't you stop buying big ass homes and 40 cars?
Raji, I'm gonna leave.
No, I'm serious. We support artists to entertain us, and then they talk about their money problems.
Raji, you got no empathy for that. No, I don't want to hear it.
I don't.
I hear you.
I don't. Crew, y'all with me? I'm supporting you as an artist. I'm going to your movies. I'm going to your concerts. I'm patronizing your business, and then you tell me you got money problems. I could have saved my money. Shit, I could have saved my money.
I hope to be one of those people one day, so I'm gonna shut my mouth.
Huh? No, I ain't gonna. No. Just don't talk about your problems.
You like,
don't be like, man, it's hard out here, man. Shit, only got 25 million. What am I supposed to do with that?
Point well taken. Point well taken. I can't defend that, but I hear what you're saying.
Breaks my heart. It breaks.
It breaks my heart, man. All right, let's go through what the crew got to say. Willie Frazier, my guy, you said my bootstraps aren't just pulled up. My bootstraps are worn down.
Hello.
Hey, Willie, I don't have no bootstraps.
No.
I just got the boot.
No, a lot of people
Willie, I appreciate you, brother.
Yes.
My sister Lana, you said it took me to get in my 40s to realize I could make more money by changing my mindset more than anything. Changing mindset made me open business while working full time. Just do it. It's God's desire.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good girl.
Absolutely. Chris Big, you checked in and said, ain't no way her money and my money is under my control. Well, I hope, look, I don't care who controls it, just as long as you be knowledgeable on how to use the money.
Yeah, I'm sure they're both investing. I'm sure they're both trying to grow the money. But yeah, the way that sounded, I think it just was so jarring to think of multimillionaires splitting bills like that. I don't know. I want to know what, you said Beyonce, Jay-Z, does, Victoria Beckham and David Beckham split half do? Like, it'd be interesting to know in those upper echelon folks and marriages, what are they doing? Because I don't think everyday people may have the same rules and it may not just apply. But it's just very interesting. Well, actually, I'm not calling no names. I know of a person whose husband does just that. The household bills are split in half. No matter what she makes, even though he makes more, she must contribute half to the bills. And I was like,
that a discussion that they had at the beginning of the marriage?
I can't get into people's business on here, but I don't
know the person's suit that. You ain't saying no names.
It just rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, but you make less, so how?
Let me ask you a question. Would you want your husband, if your husband is making 2-3 times more than you, would you want to do 50-50 split?
No, we got to do at least 70-30 or whatever is proportionate to what you're making. Like
that said, like, look, no, 90-10.
Not my man who loved me and who got me, he wouldn't make me no 50-50. My baby wouldn't make me do no 50-50.
I want to wake up in the morning.
But people do it. I mean, there are different rules, different strokes for different folks. What works for your household, we're not critical of it, but it just seems like a marriage would mean, joining. But there are people, I think it's higher among millennials, that like to have their own bank account. I think it's like 60% keep their own money separate of millennials and then have a joint account. You have more egalitarian marriages for older people. There might be more traditional where the man is paying almost all or majority of, and the woman is paying less depending on, again, their incomes. So you have all kinds of arrangements, guys. I guess sometimes we want one size fits all, but a lot of people doing a lot of different things with their money. But you got to be able to talk about it and communicate about it because, as we've said on this show, it's one of the biggest issues, that cause friction in marriages. So make sure you're upfront.
Huge. And look, let me just say this: like, if the woman in the relationship is better at handling the money, and this is to my brothers, let her handle the money. You ain't doing nothing for my ego. Because the last thing I need is, as the man, you like, no, I want to handle it. I'm handling it. Okay. And then when the money come up funny, you can't handle the consequences, the wrath. Yeah. What happened? Why you didn't pay this bill? See, what had happened was
I mean, and there are people that put their full check and don't have no side accounts, just one household account. Some people do that. I'm just saying, there's all kinds of arrangements, guys. Do what works for you.
That's what I'm saying. You got to do what works for you. But one thing is for sure, that when you come into a partnership, those things have to be worked out. And it might take some time for you to tweak the system, but those things have to be worked out. But again, it comes rooted from where a lot of this is rooted from our religious beliefs when we were, growing up as children, whether you're coming from the church or from the mosque or any type of faith institution. It was always put upon us that God, the man, the woman, the children, that type of structure. But we know things have changed today. But it just requires you to have communication. Even if the woman is making more money than the man, then still, I mean, the woman don't have to make the man feel small.
Ever.
You know what I'm saying? Just because she's bringing in the money, because the man could still get the car fixed. He could still be contributing in other ways, but it just requires communication.
Yeah, and vice versa. Even if a woman doesn't make as much, that cooking, that cleaning, that childcare is worth a lot if you really put a monetary value on it. So she may not be working, but she is working and contributing. So we got to keep all that in mind too.
Hey, Suzette, let's talk about the child rearing services that she provides.
It's a lot of work. Don't think stay-at-home mothers
don't get enough love, man.
Yes.
Stay-at-home mothers,
they work hard because people think they got all this time and they're like secretary to the husband, this and that. They put in work for the family, for the unit to grow and to thrive. It's just a different type. It's a service. It's really important.
It's a huge service.
Acknowledge
huge service.
Yeah.
I know a lot of women that had done it for years and then they got back into the workforce as we close out. But stay-at-home mothers don't get enough love because you staying at home rearing the children, 2, 3, 4 children, that's a lot of work. That drains you each and every day. Imagine that being your reality. While you go out versus the man, you go out into the world, you talking to people, you getting lunch, you laughing it up with your coworkers, ha, ha, ha.
And
she laughing
for
up with a 4-year-old.
For my working women, even if y'all both work, the woman is still giving more at home. She's still doing the majority of the childcare and all the other stuff. So it's
and then you expect her to have dinner ready
and be ready.
And be ready and raring to go. So what about the loving tonight?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Hey, look, real quick. It's like that. I'll never forget. You've ever seen the movie Fences with Viola Davis and Denzel Washington? Every Friday, my man came home and he just put it right on the table. He would just, and she picked it up. It was like a system. There it is. He didn't even take, and then she gave him an allowance afterwards. Here's your $10, George Jetson.
That was such a good movie. Shout out to Denzel and Viola Davis and Fences.
Love that movie, but that was critical. I was like, how many black men and women picked up on that? He came right home.
Bop.
Here we go.
Check.
Here's the check. Here's the money.
Make it work. Let's go.
All you got to do is feed me, love me, and then I'm out in the street again. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, would you love to go to a restaurant this summer or this spring and you're sitting next to a dog? Yeah, we're talking about how now there's a new law that allows dogs in outdoor eating spaces, but some restaurant goers are saying, what the roof? We'll talk about that. Stay with us. The conversation continues here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. Woof!
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Let me bring Suzette back into the fold here. Suzette, I got to see, Lana checked in. She made a great point. I think this is something that needs to be said. Lana, I appreciate you, big sister. You said, when I met my husband, he made less than me. That was not a concern because I saw the man in him. Now, he makes more than me. Don't frown on the man because you can't see the potential.
Sis, you
We
preaching.
can't just see the potential. He became that man.
You preaching, sis. A lot of people giving up a lot of good men because they want it right now, but they don't know they built. Hallelujah. Y'all got to work with them. You got to.
There we go.
You better work with a good man, good soul, good spirit, good work ethic, smart,
matter of fact,
loving.
Keelan, it's so funny, Suzette, that you used Obama because guess what? He was below Michelle.
Michelle made more than him. Michelle seen a diamond. She was like, oh, hold on.
Wait, hold on, Senator, Mr. President. Hold on. Let me get this down.
He was her like intern or something. She was like, oh, wait a minute now. I know a diamond in the rough when I see it. She bet on that one and she won. So good advice, Lana L. You got to know that if he has the good, solid foundation of what it takes to be a good man, he just don't have everything right now. Don't pass it up. I would say,
guess what?
Work with him.
Hey, man, jobs will come and go, but a good man will stay.
There we go. Praise him. There's some good comments. Shout out to Damon Blissett. Shout out to everybody talking about how they do it in their house.
First thing, y'all. Y'all oversharing like Gabrielle Union in the chat.
I like it. It's helpful.
Oversharing. All right. Let me just go to this final conversation because Suzette, I know you like to go out and about it. Y'all, if y'all don't follow Suzette on social media, please follow Suzette.
Please.
Because
Thank you.
Trust and believe when I tell you, Suzette be all over Florida.
We get it in there. We get in there.
You get in there, Suzette. You're at an event like every weekend. What are you talking about?
Keeping busy. God is good. Keeping busy.
From Democratic women to Black lawyers to you everywhere.
I'll be emceeing a women's retreat Saturday for a city down here. Yes, I love to MC and host and all that good stuff. I appreciate it.
Well, you're doing a phenomenal job. Real talk.
No,
You're doing
I appreciate you.
Job. So here's the thing. This story got my interest because, it's springtime, it's summertime, it's getting warmer. A lot of restaurants are opening up their outdoor spaces, and they're finding that now there is has been a call for restaurant goers to not only enjoy the space outdoors and with these inside these restaurants, but they want to bring their dogs to the conversation as well, bring their dogs to the table. What the rough? Yeah, folks. More dogs could show up in outdoor dining spaces this summer as the U.S. government has given its blessing to restaurants that want to allow pet dogs in their outdoor spaces.
Yeah, not gonna get Peter on me. I hear what you. There's a lot of pet lovers that I know, so I'm gonna
look.
Try to be
I'm
neutral. Yeah,
I love dogs. I'm not against dogs. I'm not against pets
at all. Yeah.
But I don't know if I can sit next to Fido and Spot.
It's common.
I don't know. And crew, I want y'all to get y'all take on this. Would you go to a restaurant where you see dogs in the outdoor spaces? This is only outdoors. This is not indoors. But this is outdoors. And trust and believe, nearly half of the states already allow canine dining outdoors. So that's already happening. You're talking about like, you know, a little bit less.
In Miami, you see it all the time. Like it's not uncommon for you to just walk through, you know, someplace al fresco, you know, and people are sitting out and their dogs are like, you know, right next to them or at the table, or a server might bring out, you know, a bowl or a cup of water for the dog, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's going to increase now that I think this is kind of a federally approved situation. So yeah.
So do you think this is good policy?
It depends. I think there are people, again, who are avid, you know, animal lovers and animal rights people and want folks who, you know, love their fur babies to be able to enjoy spaces. There are going to be others who are not. I mean, there are people who are not pet people and who want to, I was wondering if they're going to have areas where it would be pet free or not, or something like this. But I don't know. There are folks who are going to be, you know, offended, I'm sure, or don't want that in their space because they don't equate having animals in a food, you know, setting for some. So I think there are people that are going to be really excited about it and others that might be kind of peeved that this is now allowed for dining areas.
And I'm wondering, how do you handle that? Because one of the big confusions is from a legal standpoint, because even though the United States government is saying that this is okay, it still comes down to the states. And the states saying, okay, how do you handle that? Especially given people's allergies, especially given people's fear of dogs, especially given the fact that some dog owners don't know how to control their damn canine. You know what I'm saying? So how do you kind of like bring some control into the situation?
Well, I look at it as it's creating a lot more liability for the restaurants and the restaurant owners.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Because I see it from a couple different angles. So, for example, they have always had to allow, for example, you know, people who are visually impaired, you know, and have, you know, animals that help them in a space regardless, right? Indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter. They're supposed to be able to, under the ADA, have, you know, appropriate accommodation. So there's that. But then I started thinking about how many different mishaps can happen sometimes when there's animal to animal kind of interaction, or human to animal kind of interaction. If somebody, you know, does something, or the animal takes off running, or there's so many more things that can happen that will put that owner, the individual animal's owner, as well as the restaurant owner, possibly in, you know, the line of fire when it comes to possible liability. So I'm thinking about insurance costs. There are other things that came to mind, is like, how would I protect myself from this if this is just another thing that could possibly go wrong in my establishment? But they're going to have to comply, or make reasonable accommodations for those who, like you said, can't be around animals because of, you know, maybe allergy or something that is really serious. So I'm thinking that there might be areas where it's permissible in the restaurant, and other areas, maybe a side of the open air patio, might be just designated without animals and things like this. But yeah, it's going to be kind of complex. Of course, you have the federal law, but then the states can add whatever in their own, you know, local statutes, or even down to cities' local ordinances, so that people stay safe. But yeah, it might have to be on a leash, or they might have to, you know, all kinds of stuff that could be hopefully added to make sure everybody's comfortable.
Karen, my sister, you checked in and said the restaurants will have to have owners with dog section. I will not eat at a restaurant with a dog next to me shedding and shaking. Damn shedding and shaking dog. I love my dog, but she is not going. I agree. Because you know what? All you need is a strong wind. Here comes the hair.
Raji, I'm proud of you. Raji! That's so... Listen.
You be like, don't sit me next to the patio. Next thing you know, you see the dog. You be like...
Dogs have
accidents. That's all I think about. Like, I don't want to... I'm sorry. Like, that's what I think about. Like, if I'm sitting next to... It's sunny. It's 70 degrees, 75 degrees in LA. Like, that's cool. I want to be outside. You know what I'm saying? But I don't... Look, I see... This was the first city that I actually saw people in Target with dogs.
All over.
Target. Like just walking through the aisles. The dog got a cappuccino like the owner. Just
people are passionate about their
I'm
animals.
not mad at that. But it's just weird, you know what I'm saying? It just changes my Target experiences.
Now there's been a shift in the culture around where it is appropriate or not appropriate to bring your fur baby, right? So I think there's a lot, and again, maybe in different cities, geographically speaking, across the country, you have different culture around where and when you have, your pet. And, I guess Miami is different. We have them all over as well, that people feel like they could bring it and get your eyebrows done and you have your animal with you and those type of thing and your fur baby with you. It's just is this an appropriate space? And would customers be better served who don't want to be in the presence of an animal by not allowing this person to bring it inside the store? I mean, you have people that are passionate both ways, that
absolutely,
you should be able to bring your dog anywhere, and there are other people that
That's
are not
true. No, dog. No.
I've seen it all down here, though.
Come on, man. What is he going to eat? What's your dog going to eat, man? You go to a Michelin star restaurant. You go into a nice restaurant, and your dog is sitting up there, and he looking at your steak. Look at that.
Keenan, you silly.
Keenan, stop, man. Stop.
You're so funny.
No, I'm serious. And some people treat the dogs better than their children. All right, let me go to the all right, here we go.
You got my cheeks hurting for Raji. I can't even go sign any of that.
Look.
People love their pets, man. People love their pets. Mm-hmm.
Look, people love their pets, but I think sometimes these dogs. Now, some of y'all might be this type of way, but y'all think y'all run the world. And I mean, come on, man. Look, no. So with my dog, come on, dog. Come on. If y'all could take a dog on a plane, you probably would do that.
People try, I'm sure.
People try.
I'm sure.
Knowing you're not even blind.
Or any type of, the support animal thing, it has gotten out of control.
Right.
Pigs on the plane.
Right.
A support peacock was on the plane one time. I'm like, okay, what are we doing now? What are we doing? The German Shepherd?
BB, you said I agree with all y'all. No dogs, no cats near where I'm eating. It's Damon, you said it. Damon said, I don't play with my food. I'm funny about that. I don't play with my food either. I'm real funny about that. Real funny. Real Brooklyn, you said if it's a Yorkie, I'm good. But what about a Great Dane that could drop a deuce in front of you while eating a spring roll that is the same color?
We get a little graphic now. Oh, point well taken.
I was trying to have a mature conversation, Real Brooklyn.
Oh boy. Yeah, I get the picture. We get the picture.
Lori, you checked in and said there are a lot of restaurant businesses that are open just for owners that do have pets. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Look, man. I have no problem with dogs. I have no problem with pet owners. But at the end of the day, Suzette, keep them home. Keep them home. They got dog parks. They have special places for them to get food, dog stores, all of these places. Keep your dog home, man. That's for me. Now, some of y'all probably mad at me like, I could bring my dog wherever you want to. That's fine. Just don't invite me. You got a dog, Suzette?
Don't send me the hate mail. Send him the hate mail, please. You have people, I'm telling you, they are going to bat for the animal. So I hear you.
All right, I agree with animal rights and protection. Come on. But I mean, seriously, it's around people's food. Dogs can be filthy creatures. If you watch the dog, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. I've watched my dog. They can be filthy creatures. They eat and everything. They get in their nose and everything. They got a space for that. All right.
On that note, I'm gonna leave.
That's all right. All right, look. Looks like we stomping on somebody's toe because we talk about somebody's dog, man.
No, because I know I have family members that if you talk about their dog, they're
ready to fight you.
That's why I'm like, the passionate folks who are passionate about their fur babies are super passionate, even within our culture. Like our culture as a whole has always kind of been like, I mean, my mom grew up with outside dogs. Like they didn't even come inside, and they got leftovers for food. They never got actual dog food.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
used to. They got rice and oxtail. And
you know what? Those were dogs that were born in the 80s and 90s. They know the struggle.
They had the roughest
2010s, 2020 dogs.
They got
too bougie.
It's a cultural shift even within the culture. So that's why I'm like, let me stay out of y'all's dogs.
You get leftovers. You don't get the main plate. Dog feeding your dog salad and stuff, talking about well, my dog's going to have the first appetizer, and then after he gets this bone, we'll follow that up with some chow. Come on, man.
Some people believe in spoiling their dogs. That's all I can say about that. So, guys,
I appreciate you. Suzette, how can they find you on social media? Truly appreciate you.
It's always so much fun here. Thank you. I appreciate everybody in the chat and everybody watching. Team Replay, always a pleasure. You guys can follow me at Suzette Speaks on all of the social media platforms. Come over to my channel, please, on YouTube. Just go ahead and look up Suzette Speaks, and you can hit the subscribe button. I got a great catalog, if I do say so myself. But I always enjoy chatting it up with you, Faraji. Thank you for having me each and every week.
I appreciate you. Thank you, folks. Make sure y'all subscribe to Suzette Speaks. Make sure you follow her on social media, and make sure that you go to her for your legal advice.
I appreciate it. Thank you. That part.
There we go. Thank you, Suzette, for being so good for the culture.
I appreciate it. I won't be here next week, y'all, but I'll be here the week after. I'm traveling a little bit. So have fun. See you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. I want to thank my dynamic production team, my man King Keenan, for making us sound and look so good. Joel, thank you so much. And, of course, my control room. Make sure y'all do your due diligence here on Black Star Network. Continue to support us. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free on all of your devices. And more importantly, follow us and also give something to support this movement of creating a digital space for Black conversation, Black entertainment, all things for Black culture. So go to Black Star Network today and continue to support us. Also follow me on all social media platforms at The Real Faraji on Instagram and Faraji on Twitter. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk soon for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you later. Peace.